Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. Oh my gosh, we're on episode 8 of season 2 of Bungo Stray Dogs, and there's just something about the 8th episode of a 12-episode season that is usually really, really good. And I say that, but last episode was really, really good. So I've gone through, I'm sure it's on Twitter and on my community page posts right now, but there were so many shots of Dazai last episode that were so freaking good, and just, everything going on. It's like we've taken elements of the Dark Age arc and we've incorporated them into the main storyline. So Mori, the three-way war, the guild, the manipulation, the lies, the intrigue, the mystery, it's all there. And Aang goes back, so it's just history repeating itself 4 years later. Why not? But I did want to point out something from a few episodes back in the flashback, the Dark Age arc, and Havana Moon, I want to point that out, made a really cool observation that I talked about how Kunikita is kind of like Oda was to Dazai in terms of being really idealistic and having very set moral goals and was very by the book, things like that. And then Atsushi and Akutagawa, Atsushi is kind of like a comparison to Akutagawa from back then, and Dazai's handling of Atsushi has been relatively different. And last episode was a big wake-up call to how he was, so it's like Atsushi, you've had it easy. Go talk to Akutagawa about Dazai's parenting skills. But Havana Moon pointed out something really cool in that Atsushi is not only those things, but a mixture of Dazai and Oda. And I thought that was really neat, because they pointed out that Atsushi is very much like Dazai in terms of wanting to find their place and their purpose and why they belong. And Atsushi breaking down and crying and having this moment of self-loathing was very much like Dazai, what Dazai internally thinks of himself quite a bit. And so that's why Dazai slapped him and was like, look, self-loathing will get you nothing. And he's also kind of like Oda, because it wants to save people. He wants to help people and do good, just like Oda, even though he has a power that is destructive. And Oda's power wasn't necessarily destructive, but Atsushi's is. And so it's kind of like, despite the fact that Oda was a serial killer and a hired assassin, he still ended up helping the orphans. And despite the fact that Atsushi has a power that should be destructive, he's trying to save people. So it's kind of like a neat blend. And that kind of goes back to Atsushi's voice actor playing the voice of young Oda. So, very interesting observation there. So, thank you, Havana Moon. That was really cool. I wanted to mention that because I was like, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, so much happening. Fitzgerald, what's his power? I went and told my little brother, I was like, I don't know exactly what the Great Gatsby is in terms of a power, but it's so interesting. And my brother was like, come on, don't you get it? And I was like, get what? And so I feel like it's either 1 or 100. I'm like Tendo from Haikyuu. It's either I'm a guess monster. It's either going to be 70% accurate, I'm going to get it like the Natsumi prediction, or it's going to go completely over my head and I'm not going to get it until it's like beating down on me like a hammer. So this is one of those moments. I'm like, I was wrong about Steinbeck, but I'm glad to find out his creepy manipulation ability. And then, of course, Lovecraft is creepy too. So I'm just really elated and giddy from last episode because it was so good. I went back and rewatched it just now, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so good. And this is episode 8. So in a 3-act structure, episode 8 is the conclusion of the second part, moving into the third part, and the third part is where the climax and everything ramps up for the season. So if bad things are going to happen, it's going to happen in this episode. And the title of this episode is Though the Mind May Be Wrong. Yay! Hooray! Joy of joys. So before we start, I did go and look up Dogra Magra from Kyosaku Yumino, and I didn't look up too much because I wanted to avoid spoilers because we don't know much about Q's character. So I just looked up the ability, and it says the ability is named after the real life Kyosaku Yumino's 1935 novel Dogra Magra, alternatively titled Encephalon Hell in its Chinese translation. The novel opens with the narrator known only as the ambiguous waking up in an asylum with amnesia, which can kind of tie into the whole mind control thing, upon learning that he was the subject for a psychiatric experiment known as the Madman Liberation Therapy, developed by the now dead psychiatrist. he soon struggles in a psychological spider's web interwoven by the institution's facility and faculty in search of his identity and his possible connection with a mysterious crime. So the whole thing about amnesia and not knowing things and psychiatric issues, that all ties to the mind control. Interesting. Cool. And looking up Kiyosaku Yumino, died at age 47. These guys did not live long, most of these authors. Under the pen name was the pen name of Sugiyama Yasumichi. And then a Showa period Japanese author, Zen priest, post office director, and sub-lieutenant. So a Renaissance man for the times. The pen name roughly means a person who always dreams, which is a good tie into Q's appearance and the ability to control people's minds. Yep. Wrote detective novels known for avant-gardism and surrealistic, wildly imaginative, and fantastic, even bizarre narratives. His eldest son, Sugiyama Tatsumaru, was known as the Green Father of India. So yeah, that makes total sense of why Q's appearance looks so kind of surrealist. It's, very cool, very interesting, and ties a lot to Freudian psychoanalysis, of course. So interesting, and ironically died of cerebral hemorrhage while talking with a visitor. So that is Kiyosaku. I don't want to research too much into it because I don't want to be spoiled for Q, but very interesting. But I just want to bring that up. So there you go. There's Q, and clearly Dazai is not happy / is terrified of the fact that Q has been unleashed. I'm very curious to know where Q is being held and what the circumstances were, but I'm guessing that we're going to eventually find all that out. But in the meantime, let's dive in, shall we? We are going to start episode 8 here, Though the Mind May Be Wrong, here of Bungo Stray Dogs in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm so excited, guys. Let's go. Oh my gosh! I'm sorry if I was quiet for some of that reaction, but I was just so captivated. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, oh my gosh. So, good episode. Mori, my darling, you're gonna get your wish. Dazai is going to come back and work for you all. Just not exactly in the way that you think. So many things. With the guild are lining up with the characters from their books, which I'm really happy about. And so many little foreshadowed things in this show are starting to all come back around. And I really love that. I love when a show plants seeds of something and then a while later you reap the benefits from them. Like, I love that when a show does it. I'm like, oh, good. We did the thing. Yay. So, God, at first, I was really surprised that Atsushi and Kyoka got away from Fitzgerald so quickly. I was like, man, that was really quick. And then I love, bless his heart, Atsushi, he struggles so much with the idea, him and Kyoka and Dazai and Akutagawa, so many of these characters, and Q and Lucy, all of our stray dogs, they all struggle with trying to belong. And Kyoka just goes for the throat. She, like, snabs him. And they're like, peace out, going in the river again. And so I like that Fitzgerald, God, we'll talk about him in a minute. But I love the symbolism of light and darkness in this episode. Like, it was used so often, especially with Kyoka and Atsushi. But I love Atsushi. And when Atsushi is doubting himself, he's doubting his ability to be a productive member of the agency. And he thinks that what he's doing is just harming people. And, I mean, Dazai just slaps some sense into him, like, yeah, you can't be self-loathing, but it's hard to just tell somebody to not do that and then for them to actually go through with it. And he's also just talked to Koyo, and Koyo's talked about how much she wants to keep Kyoka safe, and here Kyoka is, like, getting right in the midst of things. And so she's like, that's not what you should be doing, or at least that's not what him and Koyo think she should be doing. And Kyoka is like, no, I belong with the agency, like, you guys have given me a place to belong. And here's the worst part about it. The worst part about it with Kyoka is that we don't see her for the rest of the episode after she attacks the captain. Because she goes into survival mode, and she's like, no, I'm gonna, rescue you, Atsushi, and keep you safe. And they're on to me. They know that I'm being targeted. And so she does what she reflexively goes to, and that's attacking people to defend herself. And Atsushi tries to get her away from it, but he ends up getting taken. We'll talk about that. And so we end our meeting with Kyoka with her. I feel so bad for Kyoka because she's just left in this dark puddle. She can't get out of it, and I hate that she cries and she's like, why did you show me that there was hope? I hate it. Why did you show me there was light? And so I worry that especially, here's the thing, if Atsushi's suggesting they go back to the Port Mafia and form an alliance with them to get rid of the guild, I'm worried that Kyoka, that's just like enabling her, right? You're going to take her right back to the group that she came from and hated because they were enabling her killing people, and they enabled this behavior. So I worry that, even though I totally understand what Atsushi is aiming for with this alliance, and we'll talk about that later, but I worry about Kyoka because I think that if she's near the Port Mafia, that's not what Koya wanted. Even though Koya wanted to take her back for herself, she probably just wanted to keep her hidden away so that she couldn't do anything. Yeah, but then we get, there's so much to talk about in this episode. As per usual, why not? So, Luisa's strategy. So here's the thing. I wonder if her ability is to predict any possible situation that's going to happen. Kind of like whatever. She's like, here are all these alternate scenarios that could happen. Which one do you want? Because she has the strategy of how they could possibly escape and everything in her giant binder of information. But then she has the emergency plan. So she's like, well, if we really wanted to take a city, we could do this, but it's going to have a lot of collateral damage. It'd be a bad idea. And so I wonder if her power is to predict the future or predict multiple outcomes and all the details surrounding them, like what could happen and how could you do it. That's a pretty darn good ability. It doesn't seem like it, but as far as strategy goes, that's a really effective ability. It's like having a strategy guide showing you all the walkthroughs of how you can do everything. Like, here's if you choose path A, and here's if you choose path B. Like, she's a literal walking strategy guide. That's terrifying. And then this old man, Melville, with Moby Dick, the transportation whale. Holy crap. And it is not just a whale. It is a glorified fortress. But then we also have Mark Twain. I wanted to know who the red-haired kid was. We got answers. It's Mark Twain. And he has these creepy dolls named Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer that help him be a sharpshooter and help him have perfect precision, and you have special bullets and weird things. Like, dude, interesting. So he's got a sharpshooter, which of course Fitzgerald would. He has a marksman, and he has transportation, and then he has Lovecraft and Steinbeck, them as a duo is probably our biggest threat. Them as a duo is our biggest threat, Steinbeck and Lovecraft. They're the biggest problems here. Because the whale, who cares? It's just a fortress. The sharpshooter, we've just shown with Dazai that he's not infallible. He can be thrown off. Luisa and Lucy, their abilities are more like pocket dimensions and strategy things. They're not really a super effective attack combat ability. But Lovecraft and Steinbeck, yeah, they're a problem. They're the ones that I think are the Port Mafia and the agency are going to have the most trouble with. And then I love the symbolism as the whale's taking off, because I'm rewatching the episode. As the whale's taking off, she's shrouded in darkness again with the rain that's coming from the lake. And she says, "Why did you give me hope?" as she's crying. I hate it, Kyoka. I hate it for her. I hate it so much. And I guess the police, they either got her or she ran away, or she killed him. Don't give me any more light. I love that, though, the head may err. I love that it's an actual line from Atsushi, the author. I love it. I absolutely love that. That's such a cool thing. So a week goes by. A week that Atsushi's been stuck on this boat. And here's the thing. Man, if you want to build up how powerful Steinbeck and Lovecraft are, we just saw in the last episode Q be built up as this dangerous, ominous force. And Dazai was terrified of Q and was saying Q has a really bad ability in that it's super powerful and really a bad deal. It can control lots of people for a lot of time. And so they're like, we need to get Q incapacitated. Having them unleashed is not good. And Q, running amok, doing whatever it wants, sees a guild member and it's like, I'm just going to go control them. you done goofed. You picked the worst one. And I like that Lovecraft in his mind sees someone making a dachshund and then takes his tentacles and does it with the tentacles. But he's so absent-minded and aloof. And Q's like, God. And I love that Q's like, oh, I'll just control you. And that was a bad idea. You should not have done that. And that scream that Q says, we don't get to see Lovecraft's form. But, yeah, about that. That's absolutely like Cthulhu terrifying. Nope. And so this is the brilliant part of it. The emergency strategy. I love that the whale was in the OP all this time. I love it. The emergency strategy. We're going to get to the emergency strategy because I'm getting to Hawthorne and Margaret. And I want to take Fitzgerald's rant. So Hawthorne ends up living, and Margaret's in a coma. And Hawthorne, very true to character, and Margaret, very true to character. Hawthorne being kind of righteous and being like, Margaret sacrificed herself to save me, so why would I continue to be part of your charade anymore? Like, I'm going to save Margaret in her honor. Because Fitzgerald just kind of throws her the wind. He's like, who cares about Margaret? He's like, she was just in the guild to pay a debt off, and her powers are expendable, and Hawthorne kind of takes offense to that. I've noticed that a lot of guild members joined to pay off massive debts and reestablish reputation. Like, that's for a lot of people, and Fitzgerald just kind of tosses her aside and is like, well, it's just a fleeting dream now. And Hawthorne says, it wasn't a fleeting dream until you made it so. Like, you didn't protect her, and you're not helping her now, so this is kind of your fault too. And I like that Hawthorne stands up and he's like, I'm leaving. Like, peace out, Girl Scout. I'm taking back her honor myself. And, okay, we need to talk about this, because if you've read The Great Gatsby, then you know that Jay Gatsby's whole thing in the novel is building up that he has all of this wealth, all of these things, all of this power and prestige and reputation. And the moment that any of it is shattered or any of the reality slips through, that he's not as amazing as he thinks he is, then he just goes off the rails. And that is exactly what this character does, what Fitzgerald does. And she's like, but the emergency plan, he's just like throwing stuff away. She's like, the emergency plan is going to cause a lot of damage and put it into a sea of flames. And I love that he almost smashes the globe. He says, everything belongs to me. Even the people. He's like, you're all my property. And she's like, oh God. Yeah, I won't allow my people to be hurt anymore. You are my property and I have the right to protect you. Like, that is some gaslighting, manipulative stuff. Like, I own you. So, of course I'll protect you because you're important to me. But it's like, you're his things. You're his property. It's like, oh my God. Like, dude is so megalomaniac obsessed with his drunk on his own power. Oh my gosh. I love Fitzgerald, but this, like, him just showing his power and, like, just how crazy he is. And then we cut to Steinbeck, and this was the problem. I like that, well, Lovecraft's still thinking about the balloon animals, even after a week. And Steinbeck is like, oh, there you are. And he's trapped. And it's so genius. You trapped the mind control kid. And you're going to use your roots to tap into everything in the city and 20% of the population and you're going to make this kid go crazy and make all the people go insane. Oh, I love it. I love the strategy. And Steinbeck is villainous. Torturing Q. And then, surprisingly, Q is religious. Surprisingly, I'm like, dude, we're going to have Atsushi, like, kill people an episode ago. Like, okay. But I like Steinbeck, and Steinbeck just throws it right back at him. He's like, oh, there's a god. He doesn't love you. It's like, ugh. Oh my God, that whole scene was, the basement scene with Steinbeck and Q, it sets up Steinbeck as such a good villain, such a good antagonist. I love it. I'm afraid I have no clue how the hell Lovecraft and Steinbeck are going down. Unless Dazai can touch him. If Dazai can get to Steinbeck and touch him, then his power will be nullified. And if he can touch Lovecraft, his power, like, Dazai is the key to all this. If we can get him working. He's a funnier character than we've had before. It's a Red Letter Media reference. But yeah, oh my God. So they're looking for this book. Fitzgerald wants this book, and I'm like, what the heck is this book? There's been a lot of talk about books this episode too. Like Atsushi referenced 2 different books, and Fitzgerald's talking about this book, and for some reason, okay, this is what I was thinking, and y'all are probably watching this going, Romania, you're crazy, but is the book that Fitzgerald's after, is it Natsumi's book? Is it the book that Oda was given? Because Oda made the comment in the flashback arc that he couldn't find part 3 of the book, and that it was a wonderful book, but Natsumi didn't like it, and that it was really rare. And so is that the book? Are they looking for Oda's books that he had? I don't know, y'all. I don't know. But that was my headcanon, this whole scene with him talking to Atsushi. And Fitzgerald is ruthless. He's like, oh, I'll do what you want. We'll just see which ones survive. Ha ha ha. Like, oh my gosh. But yeah, the combo of Steinbeck and Q's abilities is nightmarish. So nightmarish. Oh my god. Yeah. So, I feel like with this episode, we're going to flash back next episode to see what happened with Engo and Dazai. Because Dazai showed up with the arm sling, like he had hurt his arm, but that he was okay. And so I'm wanting to know when we do the next episode, episode 9, if we do a flashback and kind of go back in time a little bit to right when all this madness was starting. Because when Atsushi gets off the plane, he just jumps right into the middle of it. And so I just wonder if we'll get to see what happened with Engo. Dazai didn't look terribly sad, but that doesn't mean anything. And I'm wondering, too, if right around the time Engo was hit by that car, if that's when all this stuff started going down in the city, when Q's power started to take effect. I'm wondering if the timelines are going to sync up there. I think they will. But yeah, the scene between Lucy and Atsushi, ever since episode 12 of last season, I've thought that Lucy and Atsushi are very like-minded souls. They have a very big connection from their life as orphans. And it makes sense now, Lucy having the scars on her arms from the fire poker. That was such a perfect reveal that Atsushi's been through the same kind of torture while he was in the orphanage. It makes total sense now. The longer the show goes on, the more we get to know about Atsushi and his life in the orphanage. It makes sense why he's so transfixed on it and why it's such a big mainstay in his life, because it was traumatizing. The dude was scarred with a fire poker and told all this horrible verbal abuse. So of course he's got PTSD and keeps going back to it. And we'll talk about the tiger here in a minute, but the way they drew Lucy in the point where she told him to escape, I absolutely loved that. I thought that was beautiful, where she looks so soft and she's like, come back and rescue me then. And I don't ship them at all. I don't ship Lucy with Atsushi, but I view them more as friends, like that they could become friends, and she's just like, well, come back and save me. Like, come on, boy, I know you're going to do it. And did her braces go away too? She had braces in episode 12. So did they go away, I wonder? We have to look at her close up here. Yeah, they're gone. Her braces are gone. So I think it's interesting that Fitzgerald let her stay around, that he kept her around, because obviously she has a good ability. And that goes back to her being his property. She's his, so he's not just going to give his stuff away. Like, that's a very Gatsby thing. Interesting. But yeah, her getting them the parachute. I like that the ragdoll is like, just bloop, here you go. Here's a parachute. And yeah. And again, we talk about books in the orphanage. I've never regretted anything I've done. I've only regretted that which I haven't done. So yeah, Mark Twain, I'm just going to say it. Mark Twain reminds me of Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, just in his design. That's all, just in his design. I think of him in the TIE Fighter, like shooting down when he's shooting at Atsushi. But God, the animation in this episode, again, just like last episode, the animation in this episode was gorgeous. The scene where he's about to jump off and it's all lit up like a sunset, and it's the oranges and reds, and he looks back and says, all right, like, beautiful. And the scene with the tiger, and we'll get to the Dazai scene in the subway, because I think they've put all the budget this season into animating Dazai, and I'm here for it. But yeah, Fitzgerald's pissed because his tiger got away again. And Mark Twain, like I said, he reminds me of Luke Skywalker in the TIE Fighter in Star Wars when he's shooting at Atsushi. Very, very fun. But yeah, so here's the thing. As Atsushi is going down and looking at the city, he sees the Port Mafia defending it. And you can see that they're surrounded by people and they're defending people in the city. So that's where he gets the idea to team up with them. And we're going to talk about that. But yeah, Mark Twain's ability is very, very weird, that he has just these creepy dolls that help him out. They're like little sprites, and they look like Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn, kind of. And I like Mark's design. I like Mark Twain's design. Like the open shirt. He looks like Patrick Swayze from Dirty Dancing. Like, it's amazing. I'm all for it. But yeah. So Atsushi going down, and again questioning his self-worth. And then I love that the only sliver of light in that flashback links back to the tiger, which is himself. He's the tiger. It's like, dude, the tiger's in you. It's your ability. It's part of you. And the tiger biting him as he like embraces the tiger, it's like, dude. And he says, I hate me too. It's like, Atsushi, quit being self-loathing. Like Dazai said, don't be self-loathing because it won't get you anywhere. And so even though the tiger bites him, it's part of him. It's like, accept that that's part of you, and that will save your life. Because you can regenerate. But yeah, I love Dazai just coming up. You can see him coming through the smoke, and it's like, hell yeah. And then Dazai comes and saves the day, and he says, it's all because of you, Atsushi. So here's the thing. With Dazai showing back up, he looks really soft there. And Dazai, he has that gleam back in his eye. He doesn't look like he did last episode. So I'm wondering, I want to know what happened with him and Ango! And so I'm sure we're going to find that out next episode. I'm sure we're going to find that out. But, oh my god. The animation of these two. The animation of these two. And then I want to know where Dazai got these little things that shoot out things. I wonder if there's stuff that Ango gave him. I don't know. But here's the thing, y'all. Here, I realize I say the phrase, here's the thing, quite a bit, but it's so true in this. They go down the subway, and Dazai's right. He's like, we need to stop them as soon as possible because they have Q, and even if we've stopped the doll for now, they're going to get Q to act up again, and they're going to come back and try to find the doll again. So it's just going to go in a cyclical cycle until we do something. And so I'm sorry, but this whole underground scene in the subway, the lighting, it's gorgeous. The animation's so beautiful. Like studio. This is so pretty. I love it. The way that the light's hitting Atsushi, and the reds and the oranges and the shadows on Dazai. Y'all, this animation is just, I'm like gushing. I'm reminded of a line from a book I read long ago. And Dazai's like, He says, though the head may err, never the blood. And here's the crux of it, y'all. I have an idea, because this is why I love this episode. We're tying back to episode 12 when Mori-san talked to Atsushi and said one of the rules of game theory is you have to plan a counterattack. And it has to be a devastating and effective counterattack. And so Atsushi, it's like the seeds were planted and now they are sprouting, because Atsushi has an idea, an awful, horrible idea that may seem out of the question to everyone else. But to me, to my blood and soul, it seems the only correct answer. So, though the head may err, the blood never does. So, he's saying it doesn't sound logical, it sounds crazy, but everything in my being is telling me that this is the only way this is going to work. We need to turn this three-way war into just a good old two-way war. And Dazai's like, well, what's the idea? And he's like, an alliance. They're the most powerful in Yokohama, and they're trying to defend the city, which he saw from up above. And then Dazai, there's no better organization to help us in the fight against the guild. And then Dazai's like, oh? Which one is that? And I love that the look on Dazai's face. He's like you kind of know that Dazai knows what he's talking about, but he looks surprised that Atsushi would even think of it. He's like, really? It was a very Mori look. Dazai had a very Mori look of like, oh, really? Tell me more. Tell me this plan that you have that I know what it is. And just Atsushi looking up like we all know what he's going to say, but just that look and it cutting away. And the tiger eyes. Yeah, the Port Mafia. Double black! Double black next episode! Oh! Your blood is Mafia black. I'm... Oh, buddy. And here's the thing. Both the Port Mafia and the agency have the business permits. So their gifted actions are sanctioned. Even though Fitzgerald said that the special ops were taken out, I don't know how much of that I believe, especially since we don't know the fate of Ango yet. So they can pretty much, their actions are ratified, so, oh my goodness. Y'all, this episode was so good. But I just love that. I love that everything from Mori and Atsushi's conversations back in episode 12, everything that we've seen with Dazai and Mori so far, it's all cyclical. And my question is, when we go into this next episode, if Mori and Atsushi are in the same scene together, in the same place, are they going to recognize one another? Is Atsushi going to put two and two together that Mori is the mafia leader? And is Dazai going to get that Atsushi and him have met? Like, the potential, y'all, the potential. So, in true three-part structure act guidelines that I went over at the beginning of this reaction, this is totally falling in sync with the 3-act structure for a 12-episode series, because this is the end of Act 2. And just like the end of Act 2 of any 3-part series, everybody's at their lowest point. Q is being held... Q, one of the most powerful gifted members that could be used in offense right now, is being held by the Guild. The Guild has basically lit Yokohama on fire. People are being manipulated and mind-controlled. The city is in flames. The Port Mafia is trying to defend. The agency's all split up. Like, things are at their worst. Atsushi has been completely, wrecked. Dazai is his arms in a sling. Kyoka, her mental fortitude is shattered. Like, everybody's at their lowest point. And now, it's time to pick up the pieces, lick our wounds, and gear up for the climax of the season. And I am so excited. I'm probably not very articulate in this because I'm just so giddy. Like, I just want to go back and rewatch this episode because it's so good. It's so good. My face is going to hurt from smiling. But I really hope you all enjoyed this reaction. This series, Season 2, I liked Season 1. Season 1 from, episode 7 on was good. Really good. I mean, Season 1 was good from the start, but episode 7 on is where it really started to pick up the pace for me watching. But this whole second season, I love it. So yeah, feel free to comment down below. Please, no spoilers. There's not much to research with Mark Twain. It's pretty much, I feel like the Guild members I know a little bit more about, so I'm like, okay. But yeah, I may look into Mark Twain next one just to check. I mean, Melville and Moby Dick's pretty self-explanatory. I might check into Mark Twain and his ability next episode just to kind of run through it. But yeah, double black, y'all. I'm so excited. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episode 9 of Bungo Stray Dogs. Bye.